this package is described as a bailout of Ireland, but it is important that we recognise that Ireland has not asked for this bailout, and it is not the package which they would have wished. Ireland and the IMF propose that they write down bank senior debt, i.e. default on an element of that debt, because they recognised it was going to be very difficult, not impossible, for Ireland to pay back the vast amount of debts that it has. It's not clear to me that adding another €67.5 billion to those debts and subordinating the previous debts to that is going to help Ireland out of this crisis. But let us look at why Ireland was pushed into this crisis. It was because the European Central Bank threatened to withdraw finance for the Irish banks. Now, the ECB had extended €130 billion at a 1% interest rate in temporary liquidity support to the Irish banking sector. A courageous and rather risky thing for them to have done. Now, they would prefer that that credit was refinanced on a longer-term basis and at a higher interest rate. And if the Euro wishes to do that, then that is a matter for the Eurozone to agree. What is not clear is what interest we, or indeed Ireland, have in refinancing that Eurozone debt into an EU-wide debt. And it's on this point where we have to look at the funding costs. My right honourable friend for Tatton has the very proud achievement, and I think he deserves very significant credit for this, of reducing the long-term costs of borrowing in the UK. Unfortunately, that's gone into reverse over the last 3 or so weeks. Now, when he came in, we didn't give money to the Greek bailout, and we had a rescue package which was €440 billion and only 60 billion of this very dubious EU facility. Unfortunately, that's now been confused. I have to say that my honourable friend for Clacton recognised back in May that this was the beginnings of a European debt union. It was only when I saw how this package was denominated that I began to share that view. And unfortunately, that is rebounding on our credit, because the EU puts on €22.5 billion, Eurozone 17 billion, we sort of €3.5 billion or so, and what it does is, rather than being a bilateral arrangement that we have properly decided because it's in the interests of these islands and it's been negotiated between the UK and the Republic, we give the impression to the markets of being sucked in to a wider EU package, and those markets worry that we will do the same for Portugal or for Spain. Now, we've seen the backup in interest rates in the last few weeks, but I would ask the Treasury front bench to make it as clear as they possibly can that this is a one-off for Ireland, because by doing that they could at least potentially protect our credit from some of the assumptions that the market has built up over the last few weeks. Now, on the issue of the euro, I commissioned an opinion poll last month of 1,000 representative people in the Republic, and somewhat more than a third of that sample said that they would like to leave the euro and return to sterling. Now, the Chancellor says that told you so is not a policy. And of course he is right in that. But he needs to recognise that it has a policy implication. Don't make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
Now, I shared the analysis with the Right Honourable Member for Tatton and indeed the Right Honourable Member for Richmond back in 1998 as to what was happening in Ireland, how bank lending was out of control, and how we were going to see this most extraordinary boom and bust that would serve as a vivid lesson to this country. I also shared that analysis with Bertie Ahern prior to becoming Taoiseach in Ireland. He, like the Chancellor, said that he understood the analysis. Indeed, we might be right, but he wanted to join the euro for political reasons. We saw that impact of that decision in Donegal 3 weeks ago, whereas in the successor seat for my grandfather, who is the Fianna Fáil MP for that area, has now been taken by Sinn Féin. And Ireland needs to address, it is their decision, but I hope in their interest and ours, and in working much closer together than we have been, and those improvements in relations that we've seen since what the Prime Minister said about the Bloody Sunday inquiry even what the Honourable Member for Belfast North has said, and the very positive and supportive attitude he has taken, that we should work together on a bilateral basis with Ireland to try and put this right, to try and get a long-term sustainable solution for Ireland and for us, which is better than this Carolingian settlement which is being imposed by the Eurozone and the European Union on an island that deserves better.